Hello and welcome to another Pilates mat work sequence with me, Caroline. In this sequence we're going to work with rotational actions, rotations through the spine, the lower spine, mid-spine, upper spine, and also rotational actions through the hip joints and the shoulder joints. I'll teach the sequence quite thoroughly so it's accessible for beginners, but if you're a more experienced practitioner you may find it helpful for developing your overall technique. Let's get started by coming down onto the back. So we're going to roll down through the spine, or if that feels a little bit too stressful, just come over onto your side and then release down through the spine and rolling onto your back. And it's often helpful to have a little bit of support for the neck so that we'll be able to create that fist distance between the chin and the chest when we set up our neutral spine position. So let's align the spine here, lifting the hips up and then bringing the weight of the pelvis through towards the mat again, balancing the weight out, right side, left side, through the hips. And then let's lift the ribs up and lengthen the waist and the spine in the waist out of the hips and bringing the ribs down onto the mat, balancing the weight out, right side, left side. Going to lift the head up and let the neck lengthen from between the shoulder blades through to the crown of the head, just resting the head and neck on the mat there. And then from here, let's limber a little bit through the hip joints and through the shoulder joints. So we'll let the arms just rest in towards the back of the head nicely. And we're going to come into a twist, the type of twist where we let the lower spine roll across, let's say to the right side, right leg leading over, hips, and then the left leg flows through. And then as we're ready, we breathe in, wheeling the spine back through the ribs, through the waist, sacrum, tailbone, back into the middle. And then now as you're ready on the exhalation, your left leg moving to the side, spine flowing through pelvis, and the right leg coming across. So it's just gently, again, breathing in to mobilize back to the center. It's just gently mobilizing in a way where you feel that the spine leads, but that you're also able to get a little bit of release through your hip joints here. I'm just going to let this flow through another couple of times. First in one direction and then in the opposite direction. And then just coming right back into the center again. So let the spine relax and settle. And then let's just reach the arms above and behind our head here, clasping the wrist with one hand. And we're going to let the arms sway towards one side, coming towards the head on one side and coming back towards the center, swaying towards the other side, coming back towards the center. So just 2 or 3 times like that, swaying, just the arms swaying, aiming to keep our head centered. And then gradually allowing the head to move into the movement. So just gently as the arms sway to one side, the head and neck sway with them. Nice, free, easy breath in this movement. And then as you're ready again, coming back to the center with the head and just letting the arms and the shoulders release side to side again. Just a couple of times. Seeing if it feels any looser and freer from when we started. And then again, as you're ready, just allowing the arms to relax, bringing them through towards the sides, rolling them inwards, rolling them outwards. So just double check again that we've got lots of space through our spine, between the tailbone, base of the rib cage, crown of the head. Letting the legs align, so bringing the feet together, and then pivoting the feet on the heels to turn the toes outwards and then bringing the heels in line with the toes. So we've got a 2 fist distance between the feet pretty much and a 1.5 fist distance between the knees. And let's think here about locating our neutral spine position. And so as we breathe out, we're going to allow our back muscles to relax so that the weight of the spine sinks towards the mat. And then with the inhalations each time, we're going to use our abdominal muscles and a little bit back muscles to bring the spine into the neutral spine alignment. And that's going to be as if we had a little spotlight on our tailbone that would be shining through to between our heels, that the crests of the hip bones would just be directed towards the ceiling, almost as if we had headlights on the hips shining straight up to the ceiling. And between the spine at the back of the waist and the mat, again, we've got a little bit of space. The spine through the back of the rib cage is in contact with the mat, and then we've got a fist distance between the chin and the chest, with the front of the chin level to the ceiling above us. And to help keep our neck in position, we often just need to let our shoulder blades move wide against the back of the rib cage and down the back a little bit. So let's, as we're ready again, breathe out to relax the spine. And as we breathe in, we come into neutral spine. So the little base of the tailbone spotlight shining to between the heels, crests of the hip bones shining towards the ceiling, space at the back of our waist between the spine and the floor. So your body might be touching the floor, but the weight of your spine is not resting into the mat. Then spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat. And once again, that fist distance between the chin and the chest. Let's just check it through a last time, breathing out to relax the spine, breathing in to direct the tailbone towards the heels, crests of the hip bones towards the ceiling, a sense of space and length through the small of the back of the waist, the spine through the back of the rib cage in contact with the mat, length between the shoulder blades to the crown of the head, fist distance between the chin and the chest. So then let's allow our spine to relax into the mat and beginning to think about the lateral breathing, which helps us to keep our abdominal muscles strong in our inhalations and to intensify the strength in the core muscles on the exhalations. And to do this, let's just allow ourselves to really internalize the breath. We can bring the awareness into the body, and let's just begin in the space between the ears, allowing your mind's eye to become centered in the space between the ears, spending a few moments to explore the length and breadth and depth of space that there is between the ears. Just gradually, as the mind becomes familiar with that space, allowing it to soften, allowing it to relax, and perhaps even feel that it can expand a little. And then from the space between the ears, we're going to bring the awareness forwards towards the nostrils. And on the inhalations, allowing from the inside of the nostrils, the muscles to relax, to receive the breath. And again, on the exhalations, from the inside, feeling how the muscles of the nostrils can relax behind the breath. Let the awareness travel into the space at the back of the mouth, just at the very top of the throat, where we can feel the cool air of the breath coming into the body on the inhalations. Again, from within that space, just visualizing its length and depth and breadth. From within that space on the inhalation, softening, relaxing to receive the breath. And again, behind the breath, allowing from the inside that pocket of space at the back of the mouth to soften and to let go. Bringing the awareness now into the throat, and on the inhalations from the inside, allowing the muscles within the throat to open and soften, just to allow the breath to flow easily through the passage of the throat. And then again, as the breath is leaving the body, behind the breath, allowing the throat and all the muscles through the neck to relax from the inside. Little by little then, bringing the awareness of the breath into the chest, thinking about the breath in the upper chest, visualizing the breath creating and opening space behind the collarbones, out towards the shoulder joints and back towards the top of the shoulder blades. And on the exhalations, we're going to think about breathing out in this way. We're going to breathe out from the top of the breath through the nostrils, and then from the back of the mouth, and then through the throat, and then focusing on the upper chest, mid-chest, depth of chest. This should produce quite a long, quite a strong exhalation. On the inhalations, we're going to bring the awareness now down into the mid-chest, the space of the chest just below the shoulder joints. And as you're breathing in, thinking about the breath expanding the ribs away from either side of the breastbone into the space beneath the shoulder joints and back into the back of the rib cage, in and around the points of the shoulder blades behind you. And again, with the exhalation, breathing out from the top of the breath through the nostrils, from the back of the mouth, from the throat, from the upper chest, mid-chest, depth of chest. And then with the inhalations now, we're going to let the focus come right down into the floating ribs. And in the floating ribs at the base of the rib cage, the ribs separate quite a lot from the base of the breastbone. And as we're trying to really breathe into the chest, we're going to think in terms of now from the inside, feeling that the ribs expand to the sides and then back with the inhalations. And still breathing out again from the top of the breath, through the nostrils, back of the mouth, throat, upper chest, mid-chest, depth of chest. You can in some ways think about the floating ribs like a letter C shape. It's a bit of a jagged, ragged letter C shape. But if you think about breathing into the top and the bottom of the C, and also back into the belly of the letter C, let it be a capital C rather than a lowercase c. And then again on your exhalations, breathing out from the top of the breath, nostrils, throat, upper chest, mid-chest, depth of chest. And what you may feel as you're really using your chest on the inhalations is that the abdominal region doesn't really expand terribly much on the inhalations. And on the exhalations, as you're breathing out from the top of the nostrils, you may be able to feel how the muscles around your rib cage are very responsive. The sides of the ribs gathering in towards the spine quite firmly, and the breastbone and the spine moving towards each other quite firmly on those exhalations. And this pattern of the rib cage at the back, at the sides and the front, gathering in towards the spine, will actually be mirrored through the muscles in the waist because they're tied to the bottom of the rib cage. So you might be able to feel on your inhalations as you get your breath really deep and wide, keeping the nostrils and the throat nice and relaxed as you receive the breath into your chest. And you breathe out from the top of the breath. You may be able to feel deep within your waist, muscles contracting in towards your spine, at the back of the waist, at the sides of the waist, and at the front. And if it's not possible to feel the muscles from the inside, if you place your hands onto the waist, thumbs on the back of the waist, webs on the sides, index fingers to the front, you should be able to feel from deep within your body a response in the muscles beneath your thumbs gathering in towards your spine, beneath the webs of the hands gathering into the spine, and beneath the index fingers, the muscles pulling across into the center at the front of the abdomen. And on the inhalations, the effect of the breath should be mainly into the thumbs, then the webs, and very little sense of the breath pushing up underneath the index fingers. And if that's not the case, and if the waist strength isn't really coming in on the exhalations, probably you need to go back and adjust the breathing to really keep your breath expanding within your chest and not really very much in the abdomen on the inhalations. And a lot of the time, the difficulty with getting the breath deep into the chest is that the muscles within the nostrils, back of the mouth, throat are actually too tense, which is why with my method I try to really get those areas to soften and relax. So now if we've got our breath adjusted, and if we're able to connect with, on the exhalations, a sense of the muscles around our waist contracting, we're going to emphasize and intensify that now by imagining that the muscles around the waist are actually a belt deep inside our body, and the belt's got 10 notches or 10 holes, and it actually cinches in or fastens in from behind. So we're trying to imagine that belt, breath by breath, notch by notch, squeezing in stronger towards our spine at the back, at the sides and the front, and squeezing in deeper and deeper towards our spine at the back and the sides and the front. And as we're doing this, we need to make sure that the legs are still staying relaxed in the hip joints and the gluteal muscles the same. Because if the muscles take up in the hip joints and if they take up in the gluteals, what it means is that we're bypassing the core strength muscles around the midsection. And if that's what we want to train, best not to bypass it. So we keep the waist really, really strong and just check in that the legs and the hips aren't working instead. So now we've been fastening our imaginary belt through to that 10th notch or 10th hole. And so now that we're working at our maximum strength, maximum depth, we're going to hold on to our maximum depth, but relax our strength back a little bit. So on that scale of 1 to 10, relaxing your belt back to about 7. So in and around 3/4 of your maximum strength around the waist. Let's think about some core strength in the lower abdomen as well. And to do that, we're going to do the pelvic diamond method, where the thumbs come together and the tips of the index fingers come together. We lay the thumbs onto the navel, we point the index fingers towards the pubic bone, and we rest the heels of the hands onto the crests of the hip bones. And then, again, keeping the legs and the gluteal muscles quiet, we're going to try to draw down and back at the sides of the lower abdomen, away from the heels of the hands. So we've got 3 thick layers of muscle here on the outside of the lower abdomen, and we're trying to undermine, in a sense. Going down into the deepest layer, and then the next layer up, and then the next layer up, and then pulling back, following through, pulling back away from the navel, away from the thumbs, and the lower abdomen away from the index fingers. So breathing in deep and wide the way we practiced, and then as you're breathing out, drawing down and back, deepest layer away from the heels of the hands, next layer up, and then pulling back and away from the thumbs and the index fingers. So you gradually, little by little, create a hollow beneath the hands. And it's always best to get that scoop and hollow at the outsides of the lower abdomen to start and follow through the center. And just checking in again that the legs and the gluteal muscles are staying relaxed and that we're not picking up the hip flexors and the hip muscles mistakenly for our core strength. So let's say we've got to a maximum amount of strength in our lower abdomen, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, and then we're just going to relax our strength back to 7. So we've got our belt fastened at 7, the lower abdomen engaged to 7, and just checking in again now with the alignment through our spine. So base of the spine directed towards our heels, crests of the hip bones towards the ceiling, a little bit of space at the back of the waist, spine through the back of the ribcage in contact with the mat, and our fist distance between the chin and the chest. I'm going to work into a heel press here, and all that involves is to push the heels into the floor, and then as if you're going to drag the heels towards your sitting bones. So that's with your exhalation and breathing in to release. So exhaling, let your spine lengthen between the tailbone and the crown, engage the strength around the waist and in the lower abdomen, pushing the heels into the mat, and as if you're going to drag them towards your sitting bones, breathing in to release. And what we're doing here is activating the gluteal muscles and the muscles in the backs of the thighs, and breathing in to release. So when we do this, sometimes it can be that the midsection buckles and rolls or rounds away from the mat a little bit. So just checking in that you are maintaining the strength through the midsection and around the base of the rib cage, neck and shoulders staying relaxed and releasing. So let's do one more of these, lengthening our spine, pushing the heels into the mat, lots of core strength supporting us to stay in the neutral, breathing in to release. Good. So from there, we're going to let the feet stay at the 2 fist distance and the knees directed towards the ceiling. And we're going to work into the shoulder bridge. So this will involve working really firmly as we breathe out into the broad and wide scoop and hollow in the lower abdomen. And as we begin to pick up and wheel the spine away from the mat, really getting the strength in to the back of your waist, vertebra by vertebra to support you from beneath, the sides of the waist, and of course the strength coming across at the front. So we breathe out to roll up into the shoulder bridge, breathing in the shoulder bridge, breathing back and wide so the abdomen doesn't dome in the shoulder bridge. And let's breathe out to roll back down again through the shoulder bridge, coming back to the mat and breathing in to reset our neutral spine. So it could be, if you've been supporting the head, that you find that less helpful in the shoulder bridge. So breathing in to prepare, just letting your feet be nice and settled. So we're not activating the feet on this one. Let the center of the heel, ball of the foot, pad of the little toe be firmly in contact with the mat. But we're aiming here as much as possible to pick up the weight of the spine, not with the legs and the feet, but with the core muscles. So we go really broad and wide out towards the crests of the hip bones. And then we get lots of strength into the back of the waist and the sides of the waist and the front. The legs are working, the gluteal muscles are working, but not the main work. The main work, aiming to feel it in our core muscles. Up here, if you can, really lengthening through the insides of the legs, from the insides of the hip joints to the insides of the knees. Lengthening the crown of the head away from your tailbone still. And as you're ready, on the exhalation, rolling the spine back through towards the mat, and then breathing in to reset your neutral spine. Base of the tailbone directed to between your heels, crests of the hip bones towards the ceiling, spine through the back of the waist away from the mat, spine through the rib cage in contact with the mat, fist distance between the chin and the chest. So we're going to roll through again, and those are the practice ones. We're going to roll through again now. So broad and wide, scoop and hollow through your pelvis. And then again, with strength coming in at the back of your waist, sides of your waist, front of the waist, lengthening the spine towards the tailbone, lengthening through the inside thighs towards the knees, crown of the head moving in the opposite direction. So let's here push the heels into the floor as if we're going to drag them towards the shoulders. And then we're going to breathe out and let the core strength relax in the right hip, right side, and then breathing out, renew the core strength to bring the pelvis back into alignment. Once again, as you're ready, breathing in, and on an exhalation, rolling back down through the spine, breathing in to reset the pelvis in the neutral spine position. So exhalation to, once again, broad and wide pelvic diamond, using that mainly to lift the weight of the hips, lengthening the spine from the tailbone towards your knees. Keep the crown of the head lengthening in the opposite direction away from your tailbone. And your inside legs lengthening away from the hip joints. Up here, breathing in, going to push the feet into the floor as if dragging the heels towards the shoulders. Breathing in to relax the core strength on the left side, waist and hip, and then breathing out to renew that core strength and bring the pelvis level again. Breathing in and breathing out to roll back down through your spine. Breathing in to reset your neutral spine position. So once again, as you're ready, exhalation to peel the spine away from the mat, lengthening the tailbone through as if towards your knees. Broad and wide scoop and hollow back of your waist, really working sides and the front. Long line between the tailbone and the crown of the head. Let's push the feet into the mat as if dragging the heels to the shoulders. Breathing in there, you can sink your right hip. Breathing out, bring it back up to position. Breathing in this position and breathing out to roll right back down again through the spine. Breathing in your neutral spine position. And then once again, as you're ready, your pelvic diamond really working last time, and the back of the waist, sides of the waist working, lengthening your spine between the tailbone and the crown. Lots and lots and lots of space there. Pressing the heels as you're ready into the floor, exhalation. Breathing in to sink the left hip by relaxing your core muscles on that side. Breathing out to re-engage the core into the back of your waist, sides of the waist, lower abdomen so pelvis comes level again, small of the back supported. Breathing in, breathing out to roll back down through your spine, and breathing in to reset your neutral spine position. Good, well done. So it's quite intense little sequence there, and working with rotational action through the lower back. So let's hook the legs in towards us and release the lower back, just letting it relax, rolling around. So then we're going to let the weight of the legs come back towards the mat, and then once again aligning the spine. So we can lift the hips up and then balance the weight of the pelvis right side, left side, lifting the ribs up, lengthening the waist out of the hips, and then balancing the weight of the rib cage on the mat, right side, left side, supporting the head with the hands, lengthening it from between the shoulder blades through to the crown of the head, and the arms coming by the sides. We're going to work into a movement now which rotates the upper spine, and we're working with the arms as well. So we're going to breathe in to let the arms lift to an upright position, let the collarbones open and broaden, and the weight of the arms sink down into the shoulder joints. The shoulder blades should be sort of positioned to the centre of the rib cage on either side of the spine, and let them just a little bit draw down the back there. And as you've adjusted the shoulder blades, you might need to readjust your neck again. So we start with the palms of the hands facing each other, the arms heavy in the shoulder joints, and let's breathe in to release the muscles between the spine and the shoulder blade, so stretching them a little bit, and releasing and stretching the muscles between the shoulder blade and the back of the upper arm. So we're breathing in, and we let this right arm sway across in front of the left arm, and at the same time the fingertips are more or less aiming to point to the corner between the wall and the ceiling, and we let our head and neck follow with our eyes just following the line of the fingertips. So it's a very gentle rotation through the head and neck. And then as you're ready again, on the exhalation, engaging the muscles once more between the shoulder blade and the spine, engaging the muscles over the back of the shoulder joint, and replacing the arm down firmly into the shoulder joint. So then it's the left side. So we breathe in to release the muscles between the shoulder blade and the spine. So the shoulder blade moves out across the back of the rib cage beneath you. And then you're releasing across the muscles between the shoulder blade and the back of the upper arm. And you're just letting your head and neck gently turn, following the line of your fingertips with your eyes. So it's a very mild turn through the head and neck. And coming back, the shoulder blade, the muscles engage again between the shoulder blade and the spine. We engage the muscles over the back of the shoulder joint and resettle the arm fully into the shoulder socket. So all of that's pretty much in slow motion, just checking in with our neutral spine and making sure in this exercise that we keep the muscles working at the base of the rib cage. The space at the base of the breastbone stays nice and tight and closed, and the spine through the back of the rib cage remains in contact with the mat, and your waist is just off the mat. So it's our inhalation to release across on the right side, head and neck gently turn, and our exhalation to return, connecting our arm into the upper back. Breathing in to release on the left side, head and neck gently turn as the arm sways across in front of the right arm, and then exhalation to return with the shoulder and the head and neck just pretty much follow through. So breathing in, and we release across on the right side, breathing out, and we return. Breathing in and really releasing from behind on the left side, and breathing out to return. And aim to really feel that the movement is about releasing from behind, stretching from behind, and the across the front of the chest and into the inside of your right arm stays easy and relaxed. And then going last time on the left side, breathing in and breathing out to return. So now both arms are well settled into the shoulder joints, And there should be a sense of a little bit of activation of the muscles across the breadth of the upper back. And we're going to use the strength in the muscles across the breadth of the upper back to open the arms to the sides. And then breathing in, releasing a little bit between the shoulder blades, both sides, and releasing over the back of both shoulder joints to come back up. So that sense of when we set the arm down and into the shoulder joint, using that strength now to control and open the arms to the sides. And breathing in to come center. So breathing out to really engage from behind. There should be a sense of really opening across the collarbones into the biceps muscles towards your fingertips. And once again, breathing in to come back. So let's just work this one last time. And this next time, as the arms come down, we're going to let them stay in this position on the floor to either side of our shoulders. And working into another rotation for the neck, and this one is a little bit of a stronger one, just checking that you've got that fist distance between the chin and the chest. And we're going to, with an exhalation, let the head and neck pivot towards the left side, aiming to keep that space between the chin and the chest. And usually there's a strong stretch through the muscles on the outside of the neck as we go into this pivoted position. And if there isn't, just double check bringing your fist into between your chin and your collarbone, that you're actually still in neutral and you haven't let the chin drop, which often happens. So we breathe in here, and then again, as you're ready, we breathe out to pivot the head and neck back to the center. So let's again breathe in, and as you're ready, with your exhalation, letting the head and neck pivot towards your right side. Again, just checking that you've got that fist distance potentially, or seeing if you can feel the muscles stretching on the side of your neck, the left side of your neck. As we're ready again, next exhalation, coming back to the center. So into this action of rotating the head and neck, let's also rotate the arm at the shoulder joint. So we're going to breathe out to let the head and neck pivot around, rotating the arm from the shoulder joint, lengthening through the arm towards your fingertips, breathing in this position. As you're ready again, breathing out to pivot the head back to the center and turn the arm back up. So once again, as you're ready, with an exhalation, letting the head and neck pivot towards your right side now, lengthening across the collarbone into the shoulder joint and rotating all through the length of the right arm until the palm of the hand comes to the floor. Breathing in this position, and then once again, as you're ready, breathing out to pivot back to the center. So let's practice this once more, breathing in the center, really lengthening the neck from between the shoulder blades, breathing out to let the head and neck pivot, keeping the neck really long, rotating the arm at the shoulder joint, and then following through all the way to the palm of the hand, pressing that into the mat. Breathing in here, and once again, as you're ready, on your exhalation, coming back to the center. So we breathe in the center, and then again, lengthening and opening over the collarbone on the right side, pivoting the head and neck at the end of the length of the neck, rotating the right arm from the shoulder joint all the way through to the fingertips. And once again, breathing in, and as you're ready, on your exhalation, coming back to the center. Well done. We're going to now look at a rotational action through the lower spine. And we're going to aim to carry this movement out from our core strength. So what tends to happen a lot when people are going into a twist is that they go with the legs. And ideally, in the Pilates, when we're training the core strength, the musculature that directly supports the spine, we're going to lead with those muscles. So what we need to do in the Pilates is, with our broad and wide pelvic diamond scoop and hollow, emphasize the strength a little bit to the right side of the lower abdomen. And also we need to emphasize the strength in our waist really deep into the right side of the spine. working into the back of the waist as well to help us. So we wheel the pelvis and the spine across to the right side, and of course our legs will gently follow. So we're going to breathe in this twist and then breathe out to come back. So again, it tends to happen returning from a twist. People do it from the legs. However, that's not our Pilates method. We're going to need to try and really get the strength to cut in across the back of the waist towards the spine, and then pull in really firmly at the side of the waist to come back. Letting the strength through the pelvic diamond really center again, right side, left side, both working really hard. And the sides of both waists as you get up to the center again, pulling in really firmly. So what we're doing is coordinating the core strength. We're emphasizing different areas where we're putting in more strength. So often, because we don't really perceive a lot of separation in the trunk of the body, unless we do practices like Pilates, maybe yoga or lots of dance, we tend to move the trunk just as one solid unit. And often we just get the legs to push and pull it around, or the arms the same. But there are lots and lots and lots of muscles in this part of the body. And we're just asking the different muscle groups and areas of muscles to coordinate around the spine to move it. And it just takes a little bit of thinking and a bit of practice. And it does take often the muscles a while to get the message from the brain if we haven't been working like this in the past. So just give it time. If you keep asking the brain to find those muscles, it will eventually obligingly find them, and the muscles will obligingly respond. So just have faith and keep going. So we're going to scoop and hollow in the right side. So we've got the broad and wide scoop and hollow, but we emphasize it to the left side. And then the side of the left waist, working very firmly to bring us into this twist. Also the back of the left waist. And eventually, of course, we feel that the weight of the legs does influence the twist as we go in. So again, we breathe in here, and then coming back again. It's going to be especially the strength into the back of the waist that we need on the right side. So get the muscles to, as if bolt in towards the spine to support you back up. This right side of the waist pulls in firmly, and again, you're centering your pelvic diamond strength. You're right back to the center, and in theory, as you can see here, my legs are actually quite relaxed when I get back, and that's a test. And also in theory, we've come back in neutral spine. So if we really supported the spine back in again, we should arrive back in neutral, not with the small of the back on the mat. So there's quite a lot to think about, it has to be said. So between the tailbone and the crown of the head, once again, lots of space. Our pelvic diamond firmly in place, the belt fastened at the back, at the sides and across the front, and the rib cage responding, keeping our exhalations long from the top of the breath as much as we can. We're going to combine the upper and lower body movements now. So let's say with our exhalation, we've got our broad and wide scoop and hollow, emphasizing it towards the right, the side of the right waist working, and at the same time, keeping our neck long, we're going to allow the neck to pivot towards the left side and rotating the left arm so that the palm comes to the mat. Breathing in this position, and then once again, focus on the back of your left waist to initiate the return, side of the left waist and left side of the lower abdomen, gradually evening up the strength to both sides. Head and neck pivot back to the center, and we breathe in here. So once again, as you're ready, on the exhalation, lower abdomen on the left side, working really hard to wheel you into the twist. Left side of the waist working really hard, and the back of the waist. Head and neck pivoting at the end of the length of the neck towards the right side, and rotating the right arm from the shoulder joint towards the fingertips. Let's breathe in here. And then once again, as you're ready, on an exhalation, squeezing into the back of your right waist, side of the right waist, centering up your pelvic diamond strength, head and neck come back to the center, right palm is towards the ceiling. Checking that you're in neutral spine, breathing in deep and wide, and then once again working off to the first side again. So right side of your waist, right side of your pelvic diamond, head and neck pivot towards the left. Inhalation here, remembering to initiate the return through the lower spine, get the strength into the back of your waist, really emphasize your pelvic diamond, right side, left side, flow through to the center, head and neck are also returning. Breathing in the center, check in with your neutral spine. And then once again, as you're ready, using the left side of the waist, left side of your pelvic diamond, head and neck pivoting towards the right side, lengthening over the collarbone through to your right fingertips. Breathing in your twist, and then initiating the return, beginning in the back of your right waist, holding that strength, side of the right waist, pelvic diamond strong, head and neck back to the center, arm turns back up. Let's give it one more go to each side. So again, checking that you're in neutral, lengthening the spine, keeping tension away from the neck, using the back of your waist and pelvic diamond, twisting the lower body to the right, twisting the upper body to the left. An inhalation. And then once again, as you're ready, peeling everything back and towards the center. Breathing in the center, spine in the neutral alignment. Breathing out to initiate using your left waist to twist towards the left side. And then head and neck pivoting towards your right side. Breathing in this position. And then once again, coming back of your right waist really initiates the movement, side of the right waist, head and neck coming back to the center, just checking that you're in neutral spine to finish, and relaxing the arms to the sides. So well done, quite a lot of rotational actions in that exercise. And again, let's just hug the legs in towards us and circle the hips on the mat to release our bodies. We're going to come onto the side and work a rotational action through the thigh joint, hip joint rather, and that's the clams. So once again, we're going to need to set up our neutral spine position. Let's begin by bringing the soles of the feet in line with the hips, and then from the hips, the back of the shoulders in line, and then the back of the head. And at the moment, if you're in a similar position to me, you'll feel the weight of your hips quite vividly in contact with the floor. And using that as your guide to know where your spine is, so your spine beginning in the back of the hips, and you're using that as a guide to let you know how the spine is lengthening through to the mat. So your nice broad and wide scoop and hollow, belt nicely fastened around the waist coming down, lengthening the spine all the way through and arriving on the side. And this is where, again, it's usually very helpful to support the head, because the width of the shoulders means that if we don't support the head, the neck really hangs down. So we've got the neutral spine, back of hips, back of shoulders, back of head, but we also need to check that we're not in a twist with the one hip swinging forward, one shoulder swinging forward or back maybe, and we've got one hip then right above the other and one shoulder right above the other. Letting the legs be relaxed again at the hip joints and the gluteal muscles relaxed. And we're going to work really firmly into our pelvic diamond, getting this broad and wide scoop and hollow very much in place. And then we need to fasten our imaginary belt probably quite a bit more strongly than when we were coming down. So the belt needs to support the vertebrae in the lumbar back, the small of the back, and make sure that each one is lifted and supported. And when that's the case, both sides of the waist will be the same length. So your top hip will be moving away from your shoulder, lots of space here. And the underside, really your hip will be moving towards your rib cage, because if we're not using the core strength, that's the position. And when we have got the core strength in place, both hips are level. Shoulder blades nice and wide again to either side of the spine and moving down the back, and just double check that you are in your neutral position through the neck. So if we think back to the work that we had across the upper back lying on the mat a few moments ago when we were doing the opening the arms to either side exercise, just re-engaging that strength across the breadth of the back of your shoulders and across the back of your rib cage. Checking in that there's lots of strength here at the back of the waist as well. And we're going to, as you're ready, imagine that the muscles are working so as to bring your sitting bone right up to your shoulder blade here. So really deep into your gluteal muscles working. Keep using the gluteal muscles to get a rotational action at the hip joint. And then the muscles are actually contracting from the top of the thigh bone to the sitting bone like this. So it's almost like a little smile. And as you get that contraction, working hard in your core muscles to keep the pelvis in position. Breathing in to release. So it's that exhalation to, as if draw your sitting bone up towards your shoulder blade, working a little smile contraction between the thigh bone and the sitting bone, rotating the leg so you're in step of this top leg presents forwards, and breathing in to release. As the leg rotates, then often it may cause the hip to move back, but we need to use our pelvic diamond, strength around the waist to keep the pelvis in position, and then breathing in to release. The other thing to bear in mind is that as the weight of the leg rotates, this lower side of the rib cage and the waist should remain supported and away from the mat. Keep lengthening the spine between the tailbone and the crown. On this one, we've rotated. We're going to see whether we can keep the leg at this rotational action as we breathe in. So you have to really keep pulling the sitting bone up as if it's going to arrive in your shoulder blade. Breathing out to lower, squeezing between the sitting bones, keeping the lower waist strong, and then breathing in to release. So let the effort be behind you. Back of your neck, back of shoulders, back of ribs, back of waist, pulling up in your gluteal muscles, keeping the hips and shoulders in position. Once again, as you've got a good rotation here, breathing in to hover the leg up, keeping the lower waist really strong, and then as you're ready again, breathing out to squeeze between the sitting bones, bring the leg back down, toes touch, breathing in to release. So let's give it 2 more goes here. Breathing in to lengthen through your whole spine, breathing out to pull up through the gluteal muscles, and to work that little smile contraction on the outside of the hip. Keep the back of your body working. Breathing in to float up, keep pulling the sitting bone up as if it's going to arrive in your shoulder blade. Breathing out to squeeze between the sitting bones, keep your lower waist and rib cage strong. Breathing in to release. Last one. Lengthening the spine between the tailbone and the crown. Breastbone lengthens away from the face. Back of your body strong, drawing up through the gluteal muscles and working behind you there. As you're ready, inhalation to let that leg float up, floating up, lower side staying strong. And once again, breathing out to come back with control, keeping your rotational action in place, and then breathing in to release. Good, well done. So now that's quite a tough version of the clams, and we just give that leg a little stretch there to release in the back of the hips. Let's replace the leg, and then we're going to bring our lower arm forwards and support the head again on our rolled up towel or blanket or block if you have a block. And then now we're going to come into a spinal twist for the upper body mainly. So it's the opening the book twist. And we need to maintain the pelvis in position. So we'll be using the pelvic diamond to hold the pelvis in position. And once again, it's the same action that we had lying on the back when we opened both arms out to the sides. But here it's obviously, of course, just one arm. So you let the muscles between the spine and the shoulder blade activate, and between the back of the upper arm and the shoulder blade activate. Breathing in to let the arm lift up, in other words, using a lot of upper back strength. Then, as you're ready, on an exhalation, the pelvic diamond secures the pelvis into position, and it's especially the strength in the back of your waist that brings you into the twist. The arm stays connected to the shoulder blade and the upper back, and then the strength across the back of the rib cage moves the upper spine with the ribs and the arm as a unit into the twist, and your head and neck just look back towards your fingertips. Let's breathe in here, letting the elbow dip down, and breathing out, use the strength at the front of your waist to come back from the twist. So your chest, front of your arm, inside of your arm all stay relaxed, and you arrive back on your side, and you arrive back in neutral with the lower waist quite strong. So it's the inhalation to engage between the shoulder blade and the spine, over the back of the upper arm and the shoulder blade. Head and neck turn to look at your fingertips. Then double check as you breathe out that your pelvic diamond is anchoring your pelvis. Use the strength in the back of your waist to come into the twist. Use the strength across the right side of the back of the rib cage to bring you into the twist. Keep anchoring your arm into your shoulder joint, shoulder blade wide and moving down the back. We maintain the twist here, but as we breathe in, we let the elbow dip down, and this should stimulate the muscles a little bit on the back of your rib cage. The effort for coming back comes from the core muscles. Front of the waist works really hard, and then you just roll on through. So there will be a temptation to wheel the spine from the arm, and also what people don't realize that they're doing is lead from the shoulder girdle, which is the same as from the arm. So this is something different, which I'm doing this time. It's not from there, it's from here. And on the way back, the arm will come down, and people will often be pulling back from the front of the chest. So again, that's not the Pilates method. The Pilates method is that we will lead the movement of the spine from the muscles closest to the spine. So as we breathe in, letting the arm connect, feel the connection across the back of the shoulder and across the back of the rib cage. And now from here, I keep my shoulder girdle as well as my arm passive. I use the strength in the back of the waist, back of the rib cage. I keep opening across the front of the chest. Once again, as I'm ready, I breathe in to let the elbows sink down, and I come back using my waist strength, both sides of my waist. The lower waist stays strong, and I arrive back on my side and in theory in neutral, and I come back and my arms feel relaxed. Now, one way that you can tell that you're keeping the pelvis in position is when you come back. If when you come back you feel the weight shunt back into your legs, you didn't keep the hips in position. So we can't really see that when we're in the exercise, but we can check in with what happened on the return to gauge how we managed. And if the hips move, if the hips and the legs moved when we came back, then we just need to work more strongly before we go into the movement. So at this point, really work your pelvic diamond very, very strongly. And then the back of your waist strength, keep checking in with your pelvic diamond. And then the back of your ribs, opening across the collarbones. Feel that the arm and the shoulder blade are still really well connected. On an inhalation, the elbow dips down. And as you're ready, you're coming back, using the strength at the front of your waist, coming through, your arms still relaxed, and just noticing if there was a strong shift of weight back into your legs. And if there was, then you hadn't stabilized so well. And if there wasn't, well done, you stabilized really well. So let's press up and away from this side, and then we need to have a go on the other side. So just checking in again with that idea, soles of the feet, back of hips, back of shoulders, back of head level. And then with the weight of the hips quite vividly on the floor, we switch on the pelvic diamond, we check that our waist muscles are working nice and firmly, and we come on down, supporting our spine, back of hips, back of shoulders, back of head, all the way through to the mat. Then again, ideally, we just give the head and neck a little bit of support so that they're not dangling away. And we check hip is directly above hip and shoulder is directly above shoulder, fist distance. Just checking in again with the shoulder blade placement, this activation of the upper back strength. And then in here, we're going to switch on our pelvic diamond, just checking that your legs are relaxed at the hip joints, inside the hip joints, gluteal muscles relaxed. Really get this broad and wide scoop and hollow, so that's really important. And then squeezing the strength around the waist, back of the waist, sides of the waist, back of the waist, sides of the waist, shoulder blades wide, moving down the back, thinking about the strength across the back of your neck, across the back of your shoulders, across the back of your ribs. You've got enough core strength working where both sides of the waist are the same length and your top hip is nice and lengthened away from your shoulder. So off we go into the clams. So 2 basic clams to practice. So we're going to draw as if the sitting bone's going to arrive to the shoulder blade. Really pull up so you're working so deep. If you think about the sitting bone pulling to the shoulder blade, you have to work so deep. And then the muscles are contracting between the thigh bone and the sitting bone, so it's like a little smile. As you really get that, it's the thigh bone turning out or rotating in the hip joint. That's the action we're looking for. You need to open across the front of the hips into the inner thigh, and once again, breathing in to release. So spine lengthens, lots of work behind you, back of neck, back of shoulders, back of waist, pulling your gluteal muscles up, rotating, trying to stay open across the front of the hips and across your inner thigh. And then once again, breathing in to release. So we come into that same action, picking up deep within the gluteal muscles, sitting bone, pulling towards your shoulder blade, rotating, rotate as far as you can. And then as you're breathing in, you need to really pull the sitting bone as if towards your shoulder blade to keep the same angle of rotation. Breathing out to squeeze between your sitting bones, coming back down little by little, lower side of the body staying under control. Breathing in to release. So once again, breathing in, lengthen through your whole spine. Draw up through the gluteal muscles, having the sense that the thigh bone is rotating in the hip joint. Your thigh muscles are not working so hard. It's mainly your gluteal muscles behind you. Breathing in, breathing back the way we practiced. Hovering the leg up, really using the strength back in your gluteal muscles. Breathing out to keep lengthening your spine, squeeze the sitting bones together, coming back, working to maintain the turned out action, breathing in to release. So we've got 2 to go. So once again, lengthening through the whole spine, open up over the front of the spine, strength behind you, back of neck, back of shoulders, back of waist, and then the gluteal muscles. Keep the front of the hips open, inside of the hip joint open, get your maximum rotation, and then breathing in, keep that rotation going. So it's tough on the gluteal muscles, really tough. And once again, as you're ready, breathing out to squeeze the sitting bones together to keep the gluteal muscles working. Breathing in still, foot meets foot, and then breathing out to come down, breathing in to release, sorry. And then once again, as you're ready, exhalation to get your rotation. Last one, keep the back of the body working, keep the front of the spine long, rotating, pulling the sitting bone up towards your shoulder blade. And then this is the inhalation as we float up. Keep the lower waist strong, keep your spine supported. And then once again, as you're ready, exhalation to squeeze the sitting bones together, to come down little by little. And then once again, breathing in to release. Good, well done. So going to hug that leg in and towards us. And then just letting it relax there. So now it's the opening the book exercise, and we just bring the lower arm forwards for this one and supporting the head on our cushion or pillow or whatever we have, shoulder above shoulder, hip above hip, letting the legs be again relaxed at the hip joints, lengthening our whole spine, freeing it up. When the core strength is working firmly around the spine, you know, the body's not really resting into the mat. So we can then really feel, because the weight of the spine is suspended within the core strength, that we're lengthening between the tailbone and the crown, and that's quite good. Shoulder blades wide and moving down the back. And let's breathe in to connect the arm from behind and bringing it up. So holding the pelvis in position, using the pelvic diamond strength, getting the strength in the back of your waist to really work, bringing the ribs and the shoulder and the arm as a unit into your twist, breathing in to let your elbow dip down, and then once again coming back with your waist strength, really working all the way through onto your side. So once again, breathing in, lots of space through your spine, letting the arm float up, connecting it from behind, and your eyes follow your hand. Once again, as you're ready, strong pelvic diamond, using the strength in the back of the waist and across the back of the ribs, shoulder blade placed in your upper back and looking back and behind you. Breathing in to let the elbow dip down to stimulate the strength in the back of the rib cage, and once again coming back, using the strength on the front of the waist to just rolling all the way through, back onto the side. Checking as you come back if the weight needed to shift in your thighs as you returned. And then if it did, just working that bit stronger into your pelvic diamond this next time. So we're breathing in, connecting the arm between the shoulder blade and the spine, over the back of the shoulder joint, eyes following that upper hand. Breathing out as you're ready, pelvic diamond really strong. Activate the strength in the back of your waist, back of your ribs, leading from the core muscles and avoiding leading the twist from the arm or the shoulder girdle. And your back shoulder doesn't reach the floor in this particular twist. So it's about strength, not mobility. And then again, as we're ready, we breathe in to let the elbow dip down. And once again, as you're ready, on your exhalation, you come right back onto the side. So let's give it one last go. Just checking in that your neck's still aligned. And breathing in to let the arm lift up and to connect into your upper back, remembering to follow the fingers with your hand, your eyes. And then once again, as we're ready, pelvic diamond, back of your waist working, muscles in the back of your ribcage working, arm stays anchored across your upper back. Now here as we're ready, breathing in to dip the arm down, and once again coming back, use lots and lots of strength in your waist to bring you back onto your side, and then there, arriving in neutral spine, and after that relaxing. Good, very well done. Let's move ourselves around and release the spine after all of that rotational action. So a good idea just to stretch the hips back and towards the heels, to let the arms lengthen forwards. And if it doesn't feel comfortable to flex so much through the knees, it might feel better if you just pad up between your shins and your thighs so that you're not in such an open flexion. So in fact, this position is really forcing the knee joint quite open, whereas if we support at the back of the knee joint is not so opened. It's, closer to this type of position. However, that may still also not work, and you might think that it's just a good idea to rest on the forearms to support your spine, lengthening back from the crown to the tailbone. But if you're quite happy, back like this, extended child, just giving this a go. So 2 or 3 breaths here, just allowing our body to relax in this position. And then again, we're just going to roll up through our spine there, restacking. Let's bring the legs out in front of us. Just going to lengthen a little bit through the backs of the legs with the knees bent, letting your spine lengthen up through the center between your thighs, giving your legs a hug, collarbones nice and broad and wide and moving down the back. You can switch on our pelvic diamond and then just edging the feet forward. And then letting your spine lengthen again, hugging and holding here, just breathing 2 or 3 times. Let the breath move into the back of your chest. And then we're going to unclasp the legs, switch our core strength on, aim to keep lengthening our spine as we breathe out, stretch into one leg, breathe out, stretch into the other leg. See if you can be in neutral here, and then breathing in to bring ourselves up. Let's give it one more go. So we're just going to hug the legs towards us, lengthening up through our spine, aiming to create a neutral spine here behind the thighs. Legs might be able to walk forward a little bit. We may have to really support our back with our core muscles. And then in this position, just let the head and neck release forwards. Keep the shoulders sinking away from the ears and breathing. Breathing back as you can. And then as we're ready, going to unclasp the legs. Keep our spine lengthening forwards from the tailbone to the crown. Lengthen through the inside of the leg here as well as the back of the leg. Breathing out to let the other leg go through. Aiming to keep our spine as much in neutral as we can. So now it might be it just pings up and back, but we're just practicing there, hoping to really sit. We can always just relax the lower back a little bit more, open up a little bit through the gluteal muscles. A nice long position here with the heels pretty distant from the hips will help to release the gluteal muscles that were working quite hard. Just 2 or 3 breaths more. And then again, as you're ready, on an inhalation, drawing away from that position. Well done getting to the end of this sequence. I hope that you've enjoyed working with rotational movements through different areas of the body. If you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please think about doing so, and hope to see you again soon on Movement Style.